This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
We have Professor Dershowitz, one of a very good friend. I think I first met Professor Dershowitz. Me and him were honored about 25 years ago by Rabbi Buttman and some dinner. And Professor, we love you.
Well, thank you. We also met with the Police Athletic League. Do you remember that?
Yeah, with Mr. Morgenthau at the Heritage Museum.
That's right. And I love the PAL, the Police Athletic League. We got to come. You got to come back and be a speaker now that some of the woke culture people resigned. I would love to do that. They really taught me a lot because my parents were too busy working. Both my parents worked. I got every day, and I used to go over to the PAL and they would, teach me how to catch and throw a ball and shoot a hoop. And, I became a varsity basketball player as a result of that. So thank you, PAL, and thank you, Cats, for being a good friend over the years.
So many things are happening. The new year is coming about in the next 5 days. Give us an update on Israel. I asked Miranda Devine this before, and I asked Victoria Coates, why did Biden give another $10 billion to Iran? I jokingly said they were short on making payroll to the Houthis and the Hamases.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What I'm hoping Trump will do when he comes into office is on the first day, say to Iran, look, you have 30 days. You have 30 days. In 30 days, you will not have a nuclear program. Either you will end it and you will give all of the nuclear materials over to a third party, which we will monitor, or we will destroy it or allow Israel to destroy it. But within a certain period of time, you will no longer have a nuclear program. That has to be what Trump says right in the beginning, because he is believable. If he tells the Iranians that he's going to allow Israel or in connection with Israel together, destroy the Iranian nuclear program, they're going to believe it. They wouldn't believe it from Biden, and they wouldn't believe it from Obama. Obama certainly, who said that the Syrians have a red line, and then they crossed it, and then he ignored it. But I think with Trump, they're going to believe it. And so I'm hoping that within a short period of time, one way or another, the Iranians will no longer have a nuclear program. And that will mean so much because they don't really have a Navy. They don't really have an Air Force. They no longer have a defense system because the Israelis destroyed their defenses. All they have is the potential nuclear, and that's why they're so dangerous, and that's why it's so important to make sure they never come close to developing deliverable nuclear weapons.
Let me ask you another thing. What's going on in Israeli politics? Are they trying to do to Netanyahu what they tried to do to Trump and go after him in Florida, go after him in Georgia, go after him in Washington, D.C., this has never happened in the country before, going after an ex-president on some nonsense stuff.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. They have what I call in Israel BDS, BB derangement syndrome, which is a variation of Trump derangement syndrome. There are people in Israel who would rather see Israel lose the war than see Benjamin Netanyahu succeed. They hate him. But
are these the same people voting for Joe Biden?
Some, yeah. And they have the worst priorities. You have to put Israel first, just like you have to put America first. I met with Donald Trump the other night, and I said to him the first thing, I'm not going to ever tell you who I voted for. Only my wife knows who I voted for, but it doesn't matter. I support you. You're the president of the United States. I want you to succeed. I want you to be the best president ever. I want the next 4 years to be the best 4 years. I think the same thing is true with Israel, whether you support Bibi or not. He's the prime minister. He's the guy who ended Hezbollah's reign. He's the guy who defeated Hamas. He's the guy who has destroyed Iran's air defenses. He's the guy who's about to destroy the Houthis. So a little respect for the elected president. Prime Minister, he is elected, and he was elected through a democratic means. There were 4 elections in 6 years, and Israel's the most democratic country in the Middle East. So, a little bit of respect for democracy. And the people who are opposing Bibi are saying, oh, he's a danger to democracy, just like the people who oppose Trump said he's a danger to democracy. But it's the opposite. It's the people who won't accept the fact that Bibi is the prime minister or that Trump is the president. They're the dangers to democracy.
Now, Alan, Curtis Lewa here.
Hi, Curtis. How are you? Long time we haven't spoken.
Good morning. But there's a trial going on that Americans look at. They have the prime minister on trial. There's accusations that his wife is intimidating witnesses. That's in the papers today. Can you explain what that's all about? Because I think most Americans are blown away at time of war. They have their prime minister on trial.
It's crazy. America has a much better system that you can't put a president on a criminal trial while he is presiding as president, because being president is a 24/7 job. But in Israel, you can, and the case against Bibi is extremely, extremely weak. They claim that friends of his gave him some champagne and some cigars. I've smoked cigars with Bibi. He smokes cheap cigars. He's not one of these guys who has to have the best of everything. And they also claim that he had improper dealings with the media, that in exchange for the media not attacking his family, he promised to treat the media fairly. These are the weakest possible cases. And in fact, the court has already indicated that it's thrown out the media. It's going to throw out the media case. This is just a way of diverting his attention from the most important things. Look, what Bibi did since October 7th is a military miracle. Israel was at its weakest on October 7th, 2023. And then within 1 year and a couple of months, it destroyed virtually all of its enemies. And now it's on the way, hopefully, to ending Iran's nuclear program. He is the Winston Churchill of Israel. But remember what happened to Winston Churchill. Right after he wins the Second World War, Winston Churchill gets thrown out of office by a bunch of ungrateful Brits. So it's not surprising that he's the Winston Churchill, and there are people in Israel who don't like him and don't like his wife.
And Churchill had his statue taken out of the White House by a prior president.
I know, yeah. I'm surprised that guy didn't put up the statue of Malcolm X.
Now, Alan, if in fact Bibi is able to...
Is that who did it?
Yep.
Obama took out the statue of Winston Churchill?
Out of the White House.
He was a colonialist, claiming he was a colonialist. The guy was one of the greatest figures in British history.
In World War II,
yeah. And even before and after, the guy was a great, great man. His works, his writings, even if he hadn't been the prime minister, he'd be regarded as one of the greatest writers and historians of British history. People just don't appreciate greatness. And Bibi's greatness is not being appreciated by Israel. He'll be appreciated by history much in the way that Winston Churchill has been appreciated by history. Look, I've known Bibi since 1970. We met when he was a student at MIT, and I was a young assistant professor at Harvard. And we've been close friends now for over half a century. I've known his wife very well. Every time I go to Israel, my wife and I have dinner with Bibi and Sarah. We are close friends. I don't agree with everything he does, but I don't agree with everything anybody does, even my wife. So what do you expect?
Now, Alan, if Bibi wipes out the Houthis, which he announced, okay, you're sending missiles into Tel Aviv, we're gonna wipe you out the way we've wiped out Hamas, Hezbollah. Yep. Does that then pave the way for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to make the peace, official peace with Israel, and join the Abraham Accord? Because the Houthis have been a constant nemesis to Saudi Arabia.
I agree completely. I worked on the Abraham Accords. I worked on the peace process during the last administration. You have to give Trump credit. He knew I voted for Hillary Clinton. He knew, because that was public. I had endorsed her. I had campaigned for her. He knew I voted against him. And yet he invited me to come to the White House, to work with Jared Kushner, to work on the Abraham Accords, to work with Qatar, to work with trying to end anti-Semitism. He used me because he knew I was a patriotic American. No matter who I voted for, I support the president, whoever it is. And so, by the way, the Democrats didn't do the same thing. Once I defended Donald Trump on the floor of the Senate, I stopped getting invited to the White House. I stopped being called by the Democrats. The Democrats had an event on Martha's Vineyard. Jewish Democrats of Martha's Vineyard, they didn't invite me because I had defended Donald Trump. So, as Ronald Reagan said, he didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left him. I am no longer a member of the Democratic Party. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm an independent.
Now, Chuck Schumer's trying to rush judicial appointments through up until January 20th. How successful can he be with that little amount of time?
Well, I think the Republicans can put barriers in his way. I don't think they should do it unduly. I mean, the president is the president until January 20th. And there should be, a reasonable number of judicial appointments, but there shouldn't be this happened when Adams and Jefferson had a transition back in 1800. It was called midnight judges. Adams appointed a whole slew of people, and that, led to some important decisions like Marbury versus Madison, probably the most important decision in Supreme Court history. So, history repeats itself, and we're seeing it repeating itself again.
All right. Well, do appreciate it, Alan Dershowitz. You enjoy Hanukkah. Enjoy the rest of the...
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Kwanzaa, everything. Have a good season, and let's hope next year is better for all of us.
Next year will be better as of January 20th at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.